Hey everyone, Tankenstein here, and welcome to my weak spot guide on the Jagdpanzer 38T, otherwise known as the Hetzer. Yes, that's right, I'm bringing back my weak spot guide videos, at least if you guys want. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to bring this series back, and if you do, which vehicles you would like for me to do a weak spot guide on next. And with that said, I will try to make these videos a bit shorter in length compared to how I used to make my weak spot guide videos, again, if you guys want me to make more of them, just because there was some irrelevant information or really just a lot of fluff in those videos. So that being said, to start with this one in particular, I will be using the M4 as the model tank that will be shooting at the Hetzer because this has a pretty standard amount of armor pen. It's also going to be one of the more common vehicles and one of the more common cannons, the 75, that will be fighting the Hetzer. Now that said, there are really only like two weak spots here at the very front, and it's really kind of where the lower and upper glacis plates meet. As you can see there, you can kind of shoot kind of right at the seam here between the lower and upper glacis plates, and you can pretty much go along the entire line, and it will do a pretty substantial amount of damage once it actually gets in. It's not all that much armor right there, and as well as killing some crew, you should be able to destroy that transmission, or at least severely damage it, which if you don't outright kill the crew, you will be able to slow that tank down, which is a tremendous help. If you guys don't know, of course, tank destroyers, they can really only look left to right. They don't have a fully traversable turret, at least these assault gun style tank destroyers, which makes it incredibly important that you either stop or slow them down. Now the other weak spot that we have here is basically going to be right around where that mantlet is. Now this mantlet is going to be a huge issue. It looks kind of like a lance mantlet, kind of like an old school lance, how they used to joust. And really, if you're looking at this thing dead on, you can shoot at it more or less, and this is a short vehicle, so you'll probably be looking at it from around this angle. As you can see, you can kind of shoot around where that mantlet is, just in the lower corners, and either the left or right should suffice. But if you can shoot right there, and again, this is with the M61 shot on the M4 Sherman, you should be able to get in with relative ease. Now let's say if you have only like the M72 shot, you should still be able to go in, and this is a solid shot. It's just representative of other solid shots. So again, these shots are still very much possible with lesser ammunition. Now let's say, for example, maybe you have a better vehicle that you can use, like the M4A176W with the M62 shell. Now at this point, it becomes a lot easier to kind of do whatever you want to this vehicle. However, again, this upper glacis plate should be avoided at all costs. I mean, even though it's relatively thin armor, it is sloped in such a way where ricochets can happen relatively often, and also it's got a ton of effective armor, 161 millimeters of it, which is fantastic. So again, if you have a more powerful shell, again, let's say it's the 76 millimeter that you find on the M4, you can pretty much just kind of shoot anywhere on this lower glacis plate and destroy it. However, in this case, I would still try to hit the seam because you are going to be able to get the added benefit of killing crew members, as well as, of course, destroying or at least severely damaging that transmission. And then again, all of this is still opened up. So realistically speaking, even if you have, let's say, close to 140 millimeters of relative armor pen, whatever your distance is, you really won't be able to take this thing out much easier than you would even with a weaker shell, just because this thing has so much effective armor thanks to its sloping and other armor features, like again this really unique mantlet. So what I would do in this instance is, if you're for whatever reason having a difficult time fighting this thing, either destroy its tracks or its cannon outright, which should be pretty easy for most tanks. Let's say, for example, if I'm going to use the 76 mil or the 75 millimeter, I can go ahead and just shoot this thing pretty much right at the front of it and either severely damage it or destroy it pretty easily, which then means that it's going to be essentially neutered, or more so, you can go ahead and destroy its tracks, go along the side here, and you should be able to get yourself a pretty easy kill, destroy its ammo rack, destroy the crew, whatever the case may be. And actually, there is one final weak spot that I do want to go over. This one's a bit tricky, so I wouldn't really recommend it. However, again, if you are facing this thing from the front, there is a slight weak spot here just over the track, and as you can see, it starts doing some damage. But if you are kind of facing the Hetzer at an angle, you could shoot this area again more or less like where the track guard is, and you will start doing a little bit of damage to the crew. Sometimes it depends on the shell, of course, but you might be able to even damage the crew pretty substantially. Again, it's not going to be a very good shot, and it's going to be one of those things where if you have a much better cannon, let's say for example, if you have the 76mm that you'd find on the M10 GMC, or really any 76, you should be able to actually do this one quite a bit more easily. So really this one's exclusive to these larger and more powerful cannons, I would say. But again, it is inferior to getting these shots that I already pointed out. But again, it is something that if for whatever reason you are in a bind and that's the only area that you can actually fire at, go ahead and try it, but it's just not going to be a very easy or common shot to do right here, more or less where the track guard is. So realistically speaking, just in summation here, again, the two main areas that you're going to want to shoot, and again, this is with lower penning shots like what you can get with the M61, or even higher penning shots like what you can get with a 76mm M62 shell. Pretty much the main two areas that you're going to want to fire at are going to be at this seam here, as well as around the lower left and right portions of that mantlet. And if for whatever reason you're having a difficult time doing that, try to shoot that cannon, make it so that he can no longer harm you, and if possible, destroy these tracks. Again, the biggest weakness of any tank destroyer set up like this with a casemate is the fact that it has to pivot the entire tank in order for it to be able to aim at you. It does not have the flexibility of a turret, so use that to your advantage if for whatever reason you are so weak that you cannot destroy this relatively easy, I would say, seam that only has around 60mm of armor, or again, relatively easy underneath the cannon mantlet. Those are very noticeable spots, but you wouldn't know that they exist unless you search for them, again, with these weak spot guides. So that said, thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you guys like this kind of new format. Again, I'm trying to make this a little bit quicker, as well as just being as informative as it had been in the past. Also, you guys don't need the battle examples like how I used to do, or if you feel like those are useful, tell me in the comments below, but I genuinely just don't know if they're all that useful, because they pretty much tell you exactly what I said here. They just reiterate the point. By the way, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.